So today I'm with Delara Tiv of Ashtanga Yoga Vevey, with whom I will soon be collaborating on a 2-year education program, the type of program that sometimes gets called a teacher training. And I think both of us have some issues with that term because it's not always representative of what we would hope it might be representative of. So today I'd really like to talk about what the program that you have envisioned and we're going to be putting on is all about. So Delara, maybe first of all, is why did you decide to launch this immersive education teacher training program and do it over the next 2 years?
Well, hello. Hi, James. So the reason I came up with this program was that I was already during the year offering many workshops about different themes: meditation, pranayama, asana theory, anatomy. And a lot of my students are very dedicated and interested in all these themes, and many of them are actually teachers in the region, who really appreciate all the experience and knowledge I'm sharing with them, especially as a former dancer and rolfer, movement educator. And these are subjects that, unless you've done rolfing school or lived your life as a mover, is not easy to access in other typical trainings, yoga trainings or yoga courses. And I thought, many of my students are already teaching and want to get continuing education credits or their advanced training, and they would have to go to Paris or other schools, but they really want to study with me and learn from me. So it was a demand from our shala, and also for those who do want to accumulate credit and use it to become an advanced yoga teacher or to have continuing education credits. This way they have the opportunity to be accredited by Yoga Alliance that they are an advanced 300-hour yoga teacher, or use it in their continuing education credits as their continuing education credits. I think mainly a lot of people are doing this program because they want to deepen their practice and understanding of the wisdom teachings, and so or yoga philosophy as it's most of the time called, and understanding the human body with the perspective of a rolfer.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned at the beginning how we've spoken about this before, how we both have a little bit of the way that the term teacher training is used isn't always like, if I hear teacher training, I expect it's going to prepare people to teach. And there are courses that people can take for, a few weekends here or a month there and then become a qualified teacher. And, I think many people who love yoga find themselves in this rather sad position where people that they know who might benefit so much from yoga go to a class with an ill-prepared teacher who was trained by ill-prepared teachers, and then they have a negative experience, or they even get injured or get given inappropriate things. And I think, certainly speaking for myself, but I think it's also true for you, having had the benefit of working with excellent teachers, this feeling like, I want to pass on the gifts that were given to me in a way that people can have enough time and space to digest and assimilate it, and also make this bridge between teacher and student. Like for me, I've contributed to some other teacher training programs before. I have many friends who are making a very valiant effort to empower people to teach safely and skillfully in various parts of the world. And whenever I'm a guest teacher, one thing I always try to emphasize is the most important qualification to be a yoga teacher is to be a yoga student. And your teacher training is an ongoing, lifelong practice. So to be a practitioner, when I did my teacher training, for example, I didn't think, oh, I want to be a yoga teacher. I just thought, I want to find out more about this amazing, magical thing that is changing my life and helping me in so many ways. I want to go deeper into it. And oh, my teacher was running this program. I would love to spend my weekends soaking in these teachings, expanding my understanding. And so I gained the understanding, if I want, and I was teaching other things before this, but if I want to study something, preparing to teach it is really a great way to deepen my own understanding. Because I think ultimately any serious practitioner wants to get to that stage where we can be our own teacher. So doing a teacher training or doing an immersive education experience, there's so much overlap. And even if a person doesn't want to teach classes, those sections of the course in which each student can gain experience of communicating the material to others, teaching, facilitating, this is so helpful for us managing and tailoring our own practice as we go through life, because things will inevitably change during those different stages and cycles of life. So I'm excited to be invited to collaborate on a program that's going to offer so much depth and space, and there's space for assimilation. So why did you choose, Delara, to run the course over 2 years? Like, I know there are some courses where people are like, oh, come and join me in, Bali or some exotic locale for a month. Why did you decide to do the format of?
I don't want to take value away from whoever's offering a 1 month intensive of training. I think it's lovely. Whoever can go and has the money to go and immerse themselves in intense 1 month study, even though the human body will only retain 30%. Everything we're in class, an average person only retains 30%. So if we're in an 8-hour class every day for a month, there are less chances of us integrating all the precious knowledge that was passed on to us, because we can't help it. We get tired. 6 days a week, 8 hours a day in class is a lot of time. I've done 3 trainings like that myself, and I know how exhausting it is, and I've done it at a very young age. And as a dancer who knew how to concentrate and be online like all the time, even then it's quite hard. Even when I was very physically able and had a lot of energy, there's still value in there, but to call it, teacher training and then send people off in the society with that crash course, and these people will be dealing with other human beings and bodies and system, it is dangerous. Having the training is wonderful, but does it really prepare skilled teachers? That I could argue that not really. It doesn't prepare skilled teachers. I think a lot is being shared, and actually in 1 month, that's usually like a 200-hour teacher training, and there's not time to share much about each subject. So usually the yoga philosophy is just like 10 hours of something about yamas, niyamas, and the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, few sutras, few of the power sutras, a little bit about Bhagavad Gita, who's Krishna, who's Arjuna, and anatomy is memorizing the names of bones and joints and different types of joints and ligaments, and going a little bit over knee problems, but it's just very, very basic, the minimum knowledge. It's not preparing anyone to go out there and face all these different types of bodies and ages and gender, women going through premenopause, menopause, old age, young athlete. So I prepared this 2-year education. First of all, it's 300 hours, so we have plenty of time to really go quite deep into yoga philosophy. So we just have 100 hours dedicated to the sutras, the Gita, Sankhya. Yeah, what else are we going to do?
You
It's a
also
bit
asked
of
me to
time.
talk about mythology
Yeah,
as well.
you'll talk about that part.
Yeah.
I'll let you do it. Mythology. And even that, it's like just the beginning. People who do the 100 hours be like, whoa, this is the vast ocean. And that was just a little échantillon. And so we'll be doing 74 hours of studying the human body. And by studying the human body, I don't mean this is called clavicle, and then we have 7 vertebrae usually in the cervical spine. It's way beyond that. It's how we perceive space outside and inside, how that changes the way we move, the way we breathe, how the way the human being coordinates, the quality of movement, how to, first of all, recognize our own resources and limitations, how to expand in parts that are tense or timid, or less grounded, less expressive. And when we have time to really explore that within ourselves, then it becomes easier and possible for us to recognize and see things in other bodies. And then, well, once you recognize, how are you going to help that person? And one equation doesn't apply to every human being. So some people need touch, some people need verbal cues, some people need imagery. So we're going to discover all these different ways of, okay, how can I transmit this incredible thing I embodied within myself to others who have different capabilities? And these things, that it cannot be done in a crash course, because for us to explore within ourselves, to recognize our own patterns, really understand how we're moving, breathing, thinking, these are things that cannot be fast forwarded. These are things that cannot be done in an intensive course. It needs months and years, but at least in 2 years, it gives the practitioner a chance to really start embodying what we're teaching within themselves, before they try and go help others and wanting to share it with others. Because the world of movement is not theory. Theory is just like a few percentage of it. A mover has to really master something and embody it within oneself before trying to transmit it to others. And these are things that cannot be done in an intensive way. You can memorize things in an intensive way, but you have not even, we need time to chew on it, digest it, assimilate it, then share it with others.
Yes.
Or else it's just lying on a superficial layer and talking about theories and ideas.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can just come in here, Delara, but it's like when I was studying Sanskrit, one time I was teaching overseas, and one of the people who came to one of my classes was a professor at a Western university teaching Sanskrit. And my colleague who had invited me, he said very nice things to me at the end of the presentation. He said, "Oh, you were everything she said you were and more." And he was very complimentary. But he said, you know, James, the problem I have is I cannot teach Sanskrit. I can only teach about Sanskrit, because in the Western Academy, the constrictions of the system are such, there's no space to actually go into the material. When I was studying Sanskrit in India, you know, all my teachers who had a traditional education, the basic foundation training was 25 years. So this thing of having time to install it into the fiber of your being. So my teachers, one of my teachers, he's now deceased, but when I was studying with him and his son in my first years in studying in Mysore, one time I go to their house and I was studying Bhagavad Gita and with the son. And one evening I arrive at the house and the son, Alwa, opens the door. He says, "Today, father will take the class." And so I go into his father's room where he receives people, and he asks me, what have you been doing? Oh, Bhagavad Gita. How many verses have you done? Well, we're doing chapter 2. We've done the first 8 verses. Recite them. And so then I recite them. And for the next 90 minutes, he was 75 years old at the time, Lakshmi, this great teacher. He recited call and response. We did those 8 verses. And then he said to me, it's good you are studying Bhagavad Gita, but you must study it Indian style. You must install it into the fiber of your being so you can give the book away because the book is already in you. And he said, and when you write a book, you must write a yoga book. This, with the Bhagavad Gita in his hand, this is a yoga book. It was true thousands of years ago. It's true now. You will be able to write that when you write from your own experience that you've cooked, baked, tested over seasons of your life. And so I'm really appreciative of the fact that built into this program is this assimilation time. When I used to teach at school and university, and what I would always try to do in all my classes to the best of my capacity was present the material in such a way that it appeals to different learning styles and learning intelligences. So some people, we need to embody and actively learn. Other people need it to be, we need to understand the pragmatic application. Some people really benefit from that theoretical structure. Other people need space and time to reflect. And then, as you were saying, some people need touch. Some people, they need to hear things. Music can be helpful for some people. Quiet for other people. We have different learning intelligences. How can I harness them all? And to me, that is yogic learning. Yoga meaning bringing everything together. And to bring everything together in new ways. Our old ways have got so much inertia. They've got the force of habit behind them. And when we know we want to make a change, yes, I'm going to do it differently. But when we're tired, when things are difficult, the inertia of the old ways can take over. So just as you suggested, we could go on an intensive and learn lots of great material. But then if we've not had time to digest it and assimilate it, we're not really giving it as much chance to really start to influence and impact the way that we communicate with ourselves and with others day to day. So,
Yeah,
you know, as I
that's
know,
a very important point.
yeah,
That's a very important point, that if you want to bring change, undo old habits, you need time. If you want to rush things, because the body goes into survival mode, because it has to just give output immediately, it will immediately fall into old patterns and what it already knows. So it has no chance to implement new perspective, new way of moving, new way of coordinating, new way of thinking and imagining.
yeah.
So that's a very nice point you brought up.
Yeah, and I mean it's based on hard earned and experience, you know, and I'm for me, I did my yoga teacher training 2003 to 4, but it's ongoing. I've been doing my yoga teacher training for the last 20 plus years. It's like it's a constant practice.
Yeah.
And as I know, you know, like the definition of yoga practice is long-term, unbroken, wholehearted, dedicated effort. Then it becomes well-grounded and it can grow.
Yeah.
And so I feel over 2 years, and a year cycle is already a great opportunity to really learn and see something. But 2 year cycle, like, this is a lovely opportunity to gain a foundation. And when I did my Sanskrit master's degree in India, my Indian teacher said, you know, what this does, this course just gives you a taste. It allows you to see the overview of the ocean that is Sanskrit. It's just like a primer. It's just a beginning. And I think that's what a good teacher training course can do, is to invite the students into a solid, grounded foundation that's rooted. So then everybody's empowered to continue that lifelong practice and study in a way that is appropriate for each individual. So yeah, I'm very motivated to be participating to the program.
We're very happy that you can come and teach here at the center. It's a real blessing. So I wanted to also explain that the students who are participating in this program also have the opportunity to assist my Mysore classes, 15 classes, and that will be partially observing, teachings. It could be teaching a beginner Surya Namaskar A and standing sequence. And this is done in my presence. And after each session, they get a feedback, or if they need help on the spot, I'm beside them to guide them or support them in that process. They get to see me how I adjust. I can see how they're adjusting and if it's going well. They're working in the shala where students know each other and feel safe. So if the student who's practicing and is being adjusted in a way that is not feeling adequate for them or doesn't feel comfortable, there's this safe space that they can give feedback to each other. And that's very different than going to some random shala and showing up and starting adjusting people as a beginner, you know, whereas you have the support of your teacher, you have the feedback of your fellow classmate, and this really allows an opportunity to grow and to build a safe touch and skill for teaching. Because you know the feedback comes from a good place and good intention to make you grow. And this takes time. We can't just cram 15 assisting classes in a few months, you know. And plus if every student's getting the opportunity, then we need to span it out, and then and for each student also, so they maybe they assist one class a month or something, and then they can reflect, and in the next mentorship session or course gain new input, or the questions come up that they can clarify. Again, this takes time, and then each year they have the opportunity to teach a donation-based vinyasa class, and again have the feedback of their teacher and classmates. So that's one advantage for those who want to teach, and for those who don't want to do the whole program or teach, they don't have to do this, but they get to take modules within these 2 years to concentrate on subjects that they're more interested in.
Yeah, and even if they don't want to teach, they could still do that mentoring from the point of view of gaining that deeper understanding if they wanted to, yeah? And I'd also like to just add there with regards to the language as well. So another benefit of the longer term program and with regards to transmission and teaching is that we'll also have practice, just as in terms of assisting you in Mysore class. So my sessions will be given in French with English support where that's necessary. And the idea is we're equipping people to facilitate in French and English on this course. But another thing that will be an opportunity for people to develop over time is the way that we communicate when we're in a facilitative space, and the way that this relates to how we talk to ourselves. So the power of language, this is part of the yogic method, in the Indic system, sound, everything is vibration. The power of words, the power of language. When I'm communicating something with somebody else, where am I communicating from? How can I transmit this effectively and how can I tailor the way I present things to different groups? And so this is also something that can come from when I did my own teacher training, I was very fortunate to study with people who encouraged me to develop my own voice. There was no parroting. There was no learning of a script. No, you need to understand this material in your cells so that you can then communicate it to different students, and students perhaps who don't speak the same language as you, people of very different backgrounds. So having more time and exploring with the support of the bigger picture of whole life yoga, with studying the texts, studying all the foundations. And I should mention this as well. So we will be exploring Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita in some depth as the course continues. But what we're going to focus on in the initial yoga philosophy section is all of those foundation teachings that texts like the Yoga Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita assume we are familiar with, because that's one of the something that's very central in my own work is, many people they do a teacher training and they think they've studied the Yoga Sutra. They haven't even met the Yoga Sutra, because Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita, they presume a familiarity with many foundational concepts of the broader Indic vision of life. So in the first term of the Monday evening Whole Life Yoga Philosophy series, that's going to be our main focus, is really gaining a familiarity with this different worldview. And because we have time, this means that when we then come to the teachings of the sutras and the Gita, it's going to be that much easier to develop a very personal, vibrant, practical relationship with these amazing texts that I love so much. So I wanted to mention that. I'm just conscious of time, Delara. Is there anything else that you feel is important to mention? I think we can have further conversations like this, but is there anything else today that you feel is important to mention?
There's one thing that I assume that people might that might make them be hesitant to do this program, is that because I run an Ashtanga yoga school and I am a primarily Ashtanga yoga teacher, that if they're not interested in the Ashtanga method, that they might think that this program is not for them. It's important to know that this program is for any seeker or anyone interested, first of all, in yoga, because first of all, they'll be learning a lot from you and what really yoga is about and how we can apply that to our life, whatever our sadhana is, and type of movement we choose to do as our embodiment practice. And a lot of the modules, most of them, are to give a deeper knowledge to any type of mover. So the classes that are about movement and anatomy, functional anatomy, body reading, perception, and all those subjects is really beneficial from a Pilates teacher, dance teacher, to those who are teaching yoga. So we're not focusing on Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga as a movement practice, but we're broadening it up as a dynamic vinyasa practice, so that it's accessible to most people and yoga teachers. So you don't have to be an Ashtanga yoga lover. By that, I mean Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga lover that was taught by Patabi Joyce. So yeah, I hope that you get to join us and that we can
I
grow
could
together.
perhaps just add there, Delara. So, I'm having lived in Mysore, is where I went to study Sanskrit. So I've met many people who practice and teach in the Ashtanga Vinyasa style. But what I'm very conscious of in your approach, you are a certified advanced rolfer. You are a rolfer to the Alvin Ailey Dance Company. You danced professionally for 9 years. You have a background in martial arts. And your understanding, you also teach beyond the Ashtanga method when that's appropriate. You run an Ashtanga program, but you also teach other things. And what I understand is that the training that I did was an Ashtanga Vinyasa training. But again, it was a teacher who was not part of that whole Mysore scene, let's say. But what the teacher did was use that structure and those asanas and as a means to help us understand what asana is, the principles that underlie asana and how you can work with them skillfully. And then once one understands that in the context of asana, how you can then apply that to broader movement. So if one is a martial artist or a dancer or an athlete, or is a person who is recovering from some type of injury or imbalance, whatever it might be, that those principles can then reach out and infuse all other aspects of movement and life more broadly. And that's, to me, is why I find yoga so amazing. You know, I've done quite a lot of work in the last decade with quite well-known people in the movement realm, like Fighting Monkey and Ido Portal, for example, and Movnat. And a few years ago, I was giving a workshop in Prague, and one of the people who came, she has also done a lot of work with those types of people. And she says, there's something so different about this because you make it yoga. You bring in this different vision. And so she's also a yoga practitioner, a long-term student, meditator. So it makes me connected to the whole of my life in a way that I find really helpful. And I feel this is very much the case for your teaching, is that it's, to me, it's very, when you enter your shala, it's very obvious one's entering a place where yoga is communicated as a means to help us live in this world. So yeah, I'll just re-emphasize, I'm very enthused to be giving the courses and classes that I've been invited to on this program. And I've enjoyed meeting your community to the degree that I have so far. And I hope we have an amazing group working in French and English. And yeah, looking forward to starting soon.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here teaching, James. And also, I think it's important to mention one more thing. If someone is interested about joining this program and their French is not that well, or they speak no French, my classes are mainly taught in English, and they also get to have they get to join your ongoing courses, or have access to many of these themes that you've already taught but is in English. So there is that option, or just contact us and we have solutions for you to how to work around that. So we don't want the French philosophy classes being in French language be an obstacle. We do have solutions. So yeah, we look forward to having you here, James.
Yes,
soon.
thank you. Yeah. Well, perhaps we can have another conversation on relating to the program soon, but I think for today we've spoken longer than we planned to, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll say thank you
Yes.
for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delara. Bye for now.
Bye.